Hey guys, it's Dom here, and today I'll be doing a video on how to make a good Unite the Houses deck. So Unite the Houses is a win condition card, which is a free cost, and if you have at least one card of each attribute in play, you just straight up win the game. It's probably one of my favourite cards actually in the game, and it's really interesting to make decks around. So in this video I'm going to go over some really key cards for making a Unite the Houses deck. So starting with neutral cards, some of the key ones you should always include are Mudcrab Merchant, Silent Pilgrim, Heroic Rebirth, and Painted World. Heroic Rebirth's probably the only one here which isn't a mandatory go-to, as Mudcrab Merchant is really good because it shows you two different cards. You get to choose one and then give the other to your opponent. Now, worst case scenario here, you will get, I don't know, one really good card which won't actually help you with your win condition, and a pretty bad card that you just give to your opponent. Or what this can do is allow you to get one of the missing attributes fairly easily, or sometimes even give you the option of both missing attributes, and then you just choose whichever one you think is going to be harder for you to collect. We also have Silent Pilgrim, who allows you to draw a multi-attribute card from your deck. This is really good because all of the kind of main ideas for a Unite the Houses deck is to play triple attribute, just so it's one less attribute for you to try and find, and this can get you to find 3 of those attributes at once, making it a lot easier to set off your Unite the Houses. And if not, you'll still be getting a double attribute card, which is, at least 2 of the attributes you need. And we also have Heroic Rebirth, which is going to be activated to transform a random creature into your hand into a random legend. Now this on occasion will be completely useless, and you'll just be spiraling through a bunch of cards that you don't want in an attribute that you don't care about, but on occasion this can pluck what you want exactly, or just give you a really good card to either stall your opponent or kind of draw a lot of cards from your deck. And finally, Painted World is probably the most important of the neutrals, because it costs 2 less for each attribute you have in play, and costs 2 less if you have neutral cards in play. And when you play this card, it will summon a painted troll in each lane, which is a 4/4 regenerate, and when it's summoned it will change to a random attribute. Now this can clutch a game completely, as it has in previous videos of mine, or it can just frustrate the living hell out of you. But either way, it's still incredibly important because it can on occasion win you the game. Now, Strength doesn't actually have that many cards that kind of help the attribute for Unite the Houses, except Explore, which will have you choose either a creature, item, action, or support, and put one of them into your hand. The tip here would be to never go with action, because it can never work with Unite the Houses, and items are usually kind of weighted towards Strength and Intelligence, which are attributes you're most likely to be running anyway. So either go with creature or support, and then it's kind of up to preference there. If you know you've got a lot of creatures on the board, go with support. If you're running a lot of supports, just go with a creature. It's whatever kind of allows you to put it down without blocking up your areas, really. And it's very, very much about making sure that you don't go with actions, as they won't be able to proc your Unite the Houses. Even if they are the correct kind of attribute for you, you'll never be able to have it just float on the board for a bit. Even if it does manage to grab you, say, an agility nest of vipers, which allows you to summon a bunch of territorial vipers, and you're not running agility, the chances of getting a card like that is so low, it's just much safer to go with either creature or support. Right, so next we have is Intelligence, which has quite a lot of nice cards. It has Rift and Pickpocket, Strange Brew, Moment of Clarity, and Laneth. There are also a few others which are sort of useful, but I wouldn't consider them useful enough to highlight in a video like this. So Rift and Pickpocket is excellent because it reveals 3 cards from your opponent's deck and allows you to take one for yourself. Now, not always are you going to actually get anything useful here, especially if your opponent isn't running attributes that you need to grab, but it's still nice just to get a bit of knowledge from your opponent's deck. And if you do manage to come up against an opponent running the 2 attributes that you don't have, you're very likely to get something that you need here, which would be excellent. And sometimes you might even get a double attribute card, which are the 2 attributes you need, and just instantly win the game like that. Strange Brew is really good as well, because this transforms a creature into your hand, which costs 2 more, and then reduces its cost by 2. This is just nice because it means that you can get a strongish card for cheap, which could also help you with Unite the Houses. And because it's RNG based, obviously, you haven't really got much kind of way of changing it, so it's the fact that it's a cheap card is what makes it good to run, because you're not having to kind of spend your entire turn's resources on something just for it to not work. And Moment of Clarity is also kind of leaning into the RNG side of Unite the Houses, but at least this one lets you see 3 cards from complete random and can sometimes draw you something great. Other times it's just about choosing the nicest card and going with that to help you kind of play the game. And Lanef, finally, the reason why this is here is just because, say you're missing one attribute you already have, you can grab it from your deck. Want to get 2 random attributes, go for Painted World, or if you don't even have Unite the Houses in hand, you can grab it through Lanef as well. So she's a really useful card for these situations. Agility has a few options as well. It's got Wild Beast Caller, Razumdar, and the Grey Fox. So Wild Beast Caller is nice for summoning a random animal, although the issue is animals are quite heavily weighted towards agility and neutral. So this isn't always going to be that useful, but can occasionally give you maybe like an endurance or a willpower, or even a strength. So there are like a couple in there which could be useful for you, but most of the time your Wild Beast Caller isn't going to do much. Razumdar is really nice if your opponent's playing attributes that you're not, because you get cards from them. It's also quite nice just for the sake of you can get a bit more draw power very quickly, or even get just some sort of removal from your opponent, or even deck knowledge. You get a lot of things from Razumdar which are just nice, even if they don't work alongside directly with the Unite the Houses playstyle. And finally with the Grey Fox, well, when he's summoned you get to choose to draw a card from your opponent's discard pile, so that just means you can kind of grab whatever's needed for your strategy. And whenever he hits face, you also get to know what your opponent's got to see if they're going to be able to destroy your cards or mess with your board and maybe work around things. So for instance, if you reveal a card from your opponent's hand, it happens to be a dismantle, you're not going to suddenly be playing your triple attribute supports, because you know that they aren't going to stay around for much longer. Over in Willpower, we have quite a few nice choices, all of which are varying in success rates. So Blackmail will draw a random creature from your opponent's deck. It's another one of these cards which doesn't cost much, so it's nice to play on a turn when you've got that spare bit of magicka. And it could work out really well, or it could just work out giving you a card that you're never going to play. Arrest is something which is good for if your opponent summons something really strong and you kind of want to slow down their play, so you steal it. Or it also works if your opponent's got something of many attributes that you want, you can take that too with Arrest and then just kind of ride off that. Shivering Apothecary summons a random elixir. You've kind of got roughly an equal chance of getting an attribute, or each attribute, so on occasion this will get you what you want and make you feel quite good about yourself. A Land Divided. Now this is one which is really good if you're not running Strength or Endurance, because Stormcloak Skirmishers are all Strength and the Colovian Troopers are all Endurance. So basically, if you're not running Strength, put this in the field lane. If you're not running Endurance, put this in the right lane. And then you easily get purple sorted or red sorted. Or if you're playing, what would it be? Green, blue, yellow, so Almiri Dominion, and you happen to get 2 of these turn after turn, you can fill up both your lanes with the 2 colours you don't have. But then you'd have to start... Well, it's not even too much of an issue sacrificing units at that point to get up the extra colours. But obviously that does mean crafting multiple copies of a card that you're not going to use in any other collection. And finally, Fortress Guard's really nice because you discard a card in hand and get to summon an Endurance card. So if you're not running Endurance, a card like this is excellent because it means you're only searching for 1 attribute all game. And finally, we're moving on to Endurance, which is probably the worst one to use for a Unite the Houses deck. Mainly because, as mentioned earlier, Willpower can grab quite a few Endurance cards guaranteed. And the actual cards that you get offered with Endurance aren't the best until you get to multi-attributes. So what we have here are Manamako and Zumag Foom, 2 legendaries who both have alright effects but very much depend on what your opponent is playing, because Manamako will summon a creature from your opponent's discard pile. If they're playing attributes you're not, perfect. If they are, this is just a kind of late game play to kind of summon something stronger and try and beat your opponent the old-fashioned way, which is a bit lame. And Zumog Foom, he will basically just resurrect a creature when it dies. So if your opponent's got something you want, or you've got something that you really need to keep alive, but your opponent's going to come and kill it, you can just have it dispel. They'll destroy it, then you'll get to resummon it with Zumog. And maybe, if you're lucky, or if you decide to choose this on something with a summon ability, you can get off its summon ability again, which could in effect actually grab you something that you really need. And finally, we're going to move on to the multi-attribute cards that you might want. So these would be Battle Mage's Onslaught, Guildsworn Apprentice, Sun in Shadow, or Spell Swords Summoning. I did mention Endurance isn't really the best one to go with, but if you do decide to, these are probably two cards which are very useful. So starting off with Battle Mage's Onslaught, this is good because you get 3 cards to hand. The action's probably going to be the most useless of the 3, but the item and creature could be something that you really need. And as it's sort of a mid-range in cost, this could give you a few cards that, you know, you'd want, and it's not going to be too pricey for you. Because if you're playing it early game, your opponent's not going to have anything too strong to just stop you straight up usually, unless they're playing very aggro. And if you get it late game, on a turn where you've kind of not really have much to do, then it's an alright play. Guildsworn Apprentice is really nice just because it's a cheap multi-attribute card, which has draw power as well, which is something which is very key in a Unite the Houses deck. You want as much draw power as possible just to thin through your deck and get everything you can. So having a triple attribute card with draw power and prophecy is excellent. Sun and Shadow is really good just because you can shackle another creatures. You're not really you're not really going to be attacking much with a Unite the Houses deck. You're just going to be drawing to win. And the action you can usually draw to get this will either be Unite the Houses if you don't have it already, or Painted World to get 2 random attributes to your side of the field. And finally, Spell Swords Summoning is pretty good just because, you know, it's got 2 random 1 costs coming to your side of the field. But the issue is you do have to play Spell Sword, which is probably not the best for a Unite the Houses deck. So in conclusion, what I'd say is the best ones to usually go with are Guildsworn decks, and that's mainly because you can easily grab Endurance and you're just searching for agility, and draw power is key. But I hope you guys have found this video useful and helpful, and if you did enjoy it, please like and subscribe because it really helps out the channel. And yeah, I just hope to see you guys next time. If you want to see me try and make any of these decks, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next time.